Khureb BeRuakh, Sword of the Spirit, narrated and interpreted by Wendy.
Amos. Chapter 1.
The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, who oversaw Yisrael in the days of Hosia, the king of Yehuda, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Yisrael, 2 years before the earthquake. And he said, Yehovah roars in Zion, and utters his voice from Yerushalayim, and the habitations of the shepherds mourn, and the top of Carmel withers. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Damascus, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have threshed Gilead with iron threshing instruments. Therefore I will send a fire into the house of Hazael, which will devour the palaces of Ben-Hadad. I will break the bar of Damascus, and I will cut off the inhabitant from the plain of Awen, and him who holds the scepter from the house of Aden. And the people of Aram will go into captivity to Ker, saith Yehovah. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Azza, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have carried away captive the entire captivity, to deliver them up to Adum. Therefore I will send a fire on the wall of Azza, which will devour its palaces, and I will cut off the inhabitants of Ashdod, and he who holds the scepter of Ashkelon. And I will turn my hand against Akrun, and the remnant of the Pelishtim will perish, saith Yehovah Elohim. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Tzur, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have delivered up the whole captivity to Adum, and have not remembered the brotherly covenant. Therefore I will send a fire on the wall of Tzur, which will devour its palaces. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Adum, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because he pursues his brother with the sword, and has abandoned all pity. Also his anger tears continually, and he kept his wrath forever. Therefore I will send a fire upon Timon, which will devour the palaces of Baksrach. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of the children of Ammon, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have ripped up the pregnant women of Gilead, so that they might enlarge their border. Therefore I will kindle a fire in the wall of Rabbah, and it will devour its palaces, with shouting during the day of battle, with a tempest during the day of the whirlwind. And their king will go into captivity, he and his princes together, saith Yehovah. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Moab, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because he burned the bones of the king of Adum into lime. Therefore I will send a fire upon Moab, and it will devour its palaces. Keriut and Moab will die with an uproar, with shouting, and with the sound of the trumpet. And I will cut off the judge from its midst, and will slay all its princes with him, saith Yehovah.
Chapter 2.
Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Yehuda, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have despised the teaching of Yehovah, and have not kept his commandments, and their lies caused them to err, those who follow after their fathers. Therefore I will send a fire upon Yehuda, and it will devour the palaces of Yerushalayim. Thus saith Yehovah concerning the 3 offenses of Yisrael, and the 4th is that I will not turn away its punishment, because they have sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes that pant after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the meek, Also, a man and his father will go into the same maid to pierce my holy name. Concerning garments with a pledge, they lay them beside every altar, and they drink the condemned wine in the house of their God, even though I destroyed the Amori who were before them, whose height was like the height of cedars, and he was as strong as the oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit from above, and his roots from beneath. Also I brought you up from the land of Mitzrayim, and led you for 40 years through the wilderness, to possess the land of the Amori. Furthermore, I raised up prophets from your children, and Nazarim from your young men. Are these not the children of Yeshariel? Saith Yehovah. But you gave the Nazarim wine to drink, and commanded the prophets, saying, Do not prophesy. Behold, I will press you down, like a cart is pressed that is full of sheaves. Therefore the fleeing will perish by the swift, and the strong will not be strengthened by his power, nor will the mighty deliver himself.
Nor will those who handle the bow withstand. Even he who has fast feet will not save himself, nor will he who rides a horse deliver himself.
Also during that day, he who is courageous among the mighty will flee away naked, saith Yehovah.
Chapter 3. Hear this word that Yehovah has spoken against you, O children of Yeshariel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Mitzrayim, saying, Of all the families of the Adamah, I have only known you. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. How can two walk together unless they agree? Doesn't a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Doesn't a young lion cry in his den if he has taken nothing? Can a bird descend into a trap upon the Adamah if there is no trap for it? Will a trap ascend from the earth when there is nothing to take? If a trumpet is blown in the city, are the people not alarmed? Will there be hardship in a city, and Yehovah is not the cause of it? Surely Yehovah Elohim will do nothing unless he reveals his secrets to his servants the prophets. When the lion roars, who is not afraid? Yehovah Elohim has spoken. Who is he that will not prophesy? Publish in the palaces of Ashdod, and in the palaces in the land of Mitzrayim, and say, Assemble yourselves upon the mountains of Shamerun, and behold the great uproar in the midst of it, also the oppressed in the midst of it. For those who have stored up violence and robbery in their palaces do not know how to do right, saith Yehovah. Therefore, saith Yehovah Elohim, there will be a tightening throughout the land, and it will bring down your strength from you, and your palaces will be plundered. Thus saith Yehovah, just like a shepherd will take 2 legs or even a piece of an ear out of the mouth of a lion, so too the children of Yeshariel in Shamerun, who dwell on the corner of a bed or on the edge of the couch, will be taken out. Hear and testify in the house of Jacob, saith Yehovah Elohim, the Elohim of hosts. For during the day that I will visit the transgressions of Yeshariel upon him, also I will visit the altars of Beit-al, and the horns of the altar will be cut off and fall to the ground. And I will strike the winter house with the summer house. Also the ivory houses will perish, and the great houses will have an end, saith Yehovah. Chapter 4. Hear this word, you cows of Bashan, those who are in the mountains of Shamerun, who oppress the poor, who crush the needy, who say to their lords, Bring and let us drink. Yehovah Elohim has sworn by his holiness that, behold, the days will come upon you when he will take you away with hooks and your posterity with fishhooks. However, a woman will break out opposing her, and why should her palace be cast out, saith Yahuwah? Come to Beit Al and transgress. Multiply transgressions at Gilgal. Then bring your sacrifice every morning, and your tithes every 3 years. Also offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the freewill offerings. For this is what you love, O children of Yeshariel, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Also I have given you clean teeth in all your cities, and a lack of bread in all your places. Yet you have not returned to me, saith Yahuwah. Also, when there was still 3 months until the harvest, I withheld the rain from you. Furthermore, I allowed it to rain upon one city, but I did not allow it to rain upon another. One piece was rained upon. However, the piece that did not receive rain withered. Moreover, 2 or 3 cities wandered to another city to drink water, but they were not satisfied. Yet you have not returned to me, saith Yahuwah. When your gardens and vineyards and fig trees and olive trees increased, I punished you with blasting and mildew. The locust devoured them, yet you did not return to me, saith Yahuwah. Among you who are on the path of Mitzrayim, I have sent a word. I have slain your young men with the sword, and I have taken away your horses, and I have made the stench of your camps to come up to your nostrils. Yet you have not returned to me, saith Yahuwah. I have overthrown some of you, like Elohim overthrew Sedum and Amorah, and you were like firebrands plucked out of the fire. Still you have not returned to me, saith Yahuwah. Therefore I will do this to you, O Yeshariel, and because I do this to you, prepare to meet your Elohim, O Yeshariel. For behold, he who forms the mountains, and creates the wind, and declares unto Adam his thoughts, who makes the morning dark, and treads upon the high places of the earth. His name is Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts. Chapter 5. Hear this word, a lamentation, which I speak against you, O house of Yeshariel. The virgin of Yeshariel has fallen. She has not gotten up again. She lies upon the Adamah. No one has established her. Thus saith Yahuwah your Elohim, the city that departs with 1,000 will return with 100, and that which departs with 100 will return with 10 to the house of Yeshariel. For thus saith Yahuwah to the house of Yeshariel, seek me, and you will live. Do not seek Beit Al, nor come to Gilgal, nor pass Be'er-Sheba, for surely Gilgal will turn. Then the house will not come to nothing. Seek Yahuwah, and you will live, or else he will break out like fire in the house of Yusuf, and devour it. Then there will be no one to quench it in Beit Al. You will turn judgment to wormwood, and righteousness will be cast down to the earth. Seek him who made the 7 sisters and Orion, and turns the shadow of death into dawn, and made the day dark as night, who calls for the waters of the sea, and pours them out upon the face of the Adamah. His name is Yahuwah, who can strengthen the plundered against the strong, so that the plundered will come against the fortress. They hate him who rebukes in the gate, and they detest him who speaks flawlessly. Therefore, because you tread upon the poor, and you take from the burdens of wheat, you have built your houses of cut stone, but you will not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you will not drink their wine. For I know your transgressions and your mighty sins. They afflict the just, they take a bribe, and they avoid the poor in the gate. Therefore the prudent will keep silent in that time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, so that you may live. And so Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, will be with you, like it was spoken. Hate evil and love good, and establish judgment in the gate. It may be that Yahuwah Elohim of hosts will be gracious to the remnant of Yusuf. Moreover, Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, Adonai, says this: Wailing will be in the streets, and they will say in all the highways, Alas, alas! And they will call the husbandman to mourn, and the informed lamenters to cry. And there will be wailing in the vineyards, for I will pass through you, saith Yahuwah. Woe to you who desire the day of Yahuwah, for what will be your end? The day of Yahuwah is darkness and not light, for it is like a man who flees a lion, but meets a bear. Then he goes into a house. Leaning his hand upon the wall, a snake bites him. Why is the day of Yahuwah darkness and not light? Very dark and no brightness in it. I hate, I despise your feast days, and I do not savor your solemn assemblies. Although you offer me ascension offerings and your memorial offerings, I will not accept them, nor will I regard the sacrifices of restoration of your fat beasts. Take away the noise of your songs from me, for I will not hear the melody of your stringed instruments. But let judgment run down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty river. For 40 years you offered sacrifices and offerings to me in the wilderness, O house of Yeshariel. However, you carry the tabernacle of your king, and established the likeness of the star of your God, which you have made for yourselves. Therefore I will cause you to go into captivity beyond Demeshech, saith Elohim of hosts, whose name is He who exists. Chapter 6. Woe to those who are at ease in Zion, and trust in the mountain of Shemerun, which is named the head of the nations, to whom the house of Yeshariel came. Pass to Calneh and see, and from there go to the great Hamat. Then go down to Gat of the Pelishtim. Are they better than these kingdoms? Or is their border greater than your border? Why do they push off the day of evil and draw in the seat of violence? Why do they lay upon their ivory beds and stretch themselves upon their couches, and eat the lambs out of the flock, and the calves out of the midst of the stall? Why do they sing to the sound of stringed instruments, and invent instruments of music for themselves, like David? Why do they drink in the wine bowls, and anoint themselves with the best oils, yet they are not grieved by the affliction of Yusuf? Therefore, should they not go captive among the first who go captive, and the banquet of those who recline themselves be removed? Yahuwah Elohim swore unto himself, saying, Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, I detest the splendor of Jacob, and hate his palaces. Therefore I will close up the city with all who are in it. And it will come to pass, if 10 mortals remain in one house, that they will die. And their beloved will lift them up and burn their bodies from the house. And he who burns them will ask the one inside the house, Are there any more with you? And the one will answer, No. Then he will say, Hush, for we must not mention the name of he who exists. For behold, he who exists commands it. Therefore he will strike the great house into fragments, and the little house into pieces. Why do you run your horses or your plowing oxen into the rock? For you have turned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. Why do you celebrate for nothing? Those who say, Have we not taken the horns for ourselves, by our own strength? Therefore, behold, I will raise up a nation against you, O house of Yeshariel, saith Yahweh, the Elohim of hosts. And they will squeeze you from the entrance of the fortress to the river of the wilderness. Chapter 7. Yahweh Elohim showed this to me, and behold, he formed locusts during the beginning of the sprouting of the lather growth. And I saw that it was the lather growth after the king's mowings. And it came to pass, when they had finished eating the grass from the land, then I said, O my Lord, Yahweh, forgive, I beseech you. Who will build up Jacob? For he is small. Because of this, Yahweh was consoled. It will not be, saith Yahweh. Yahweh Elohim showed this to me. And behold, Yahweh Elohim declared a fight with fire. Therefore it devoured the great abyss and ate up the territory. Then I said, O my Lord, Yahweh, cease, I beseech you. Who will build Jacob? For he is small. Because of this, Yahweh was consoled. This also will not be, saith Yahweh Elohim. He showed me this, and behold, Adonai stood upon a wall by a plumb line, and the plumb line was in his hand. Then Yahweh asked me, Amos, what do you see? And I answered, a plumb line. Then Adonai said, Behold, I will set a plumb line in the midst of my people, Yeshariel, and I will not pass to them again. Moreover, the high places of Yitzhak will be desolate, and the sanctuaries of Yeshariel will be laid waste, and I will rise against the house of Yerobeam with the sword. Then Amutzia, the priest of Beit-El, sent to Yerobeam, king of Yeshariel, saying, Amos has conspired against you in the midst of the house of Yeshariel, and the land is not able to bear all his words. For Amos says this, Yerobeam will die by the sword. Surely Yeshariel will be led away captive out of their own Adamah. Also, Amutzia said to Amos, O you seer, go, flee away into the land of Yehudah. Then eat bread and prophesy there. But do not prophesy at Beit-El any more, for it is the king's sanctuary, and it is the king's court. Then Amos responded and said to Amutzia, I am no prophet, nor am I the son of a prophet, but I am a herdman and a gatherer of sycamore fruit. However, Yahweh took me as I followed the flock, and Yahweh said to me, Go, prophesy to my people, Yeshariel. Now, hear the word of Yahweh. You say, Do not prophesy against Yeshariel, and do not drop your word against the house of Yitzhak. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, Your wife will be a harlot in the city, and your sons and your daughters will fall by the sword, and your Adamah will be divided with a line, and you will die in a polluted land. Surely Yeshariel will go into captivity from his land. Chapter 8. Yahweh Elohim showed this to me, and behold, it was a basket of summer fruit. Then he asked, Amos, what do you see? And I answered, A basket of summer fruit. Then Yahweh said to me, The end will come upon my people, Yeshariel, and I will not pass to them any more. During that day, the songs of the temple will be howls, saith Yahweh Elohim. There will be many dead bodies in all places, discarded, silent. Hear this, O you who swallow up the needy and detest the humble of the land, who say, When will the new moon be over, so that we may sell grain? Also the shabat, so that we may put out wheat, making the portion small and the profit great, with deceitful bent scales, so that we may purchase the poor for silver, and the needy for a pair of shoes, and sell the wheat scraps. Yahweh has sworn by the splendor of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. Will not the land tremble for this, and everyone weep who dwells in it? And all of it will swell like the Nile. It will rise and lower like the Nile of Mitzrayim. And it will come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth during the clear day. And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head. And I will make it like the mourning of an only son. And afterward it will be like a bitter day. Behold, the day comes, saith Yahweh Elohim, that I will send famine into the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst of water, but of the hearing of the words of Yahweh. And they will wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They will run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, but will not find it. During that day, the fair virgins and young men will faint for thirst, those who swear by the sin of Shamerun, and say, Your deity, O Dan, lives, and the path of the well of 7 oaths lives. Even they will fall and never rise up again. Chapter 9. I saw Adonai standing upon the altar, and he said, Strike the doorposts, then the thresholds will shake. Also break everyone at the top. Then the last of them I will slay with the sword. Those who flee among them will not escape. Those who slip by will not be refugees. Even if they dig into hell, there my hand will take them. Even if they climb up to the heavens, there I will bring them down. Even if they hide themselves on top of Carmel, there I will hunt and take them out. Even if they are hidden from my sight in the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent, and he will bite them. Even if they go into captivity before their enemies, there I will command the sword, and it will slay them. Moreover, I will set my eyes upon them for evil, and not for good. And Yahweh Elohim of hosts is he who touches the land, and it melts. Also, everyone who dwells in it will weep, and all of it will swell like the Nile, and sink like the Nile of Mitzrayim. Who is he that builds his levels to the heavens, and his troops in the earth? Who calls the waters of the sea, and pours them out upon the face of the Adamah? Yahweh is his name. Are you not like the children of the Cushim to me, O children of Yeshariel? Saith Yahweh. Have I not brought Yeshariel from the land of Mitzrayim, and the Pelishtim from Kabeder, and Ar from Kir? Behold, the eyes of Yahweh Elohim are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the Adamah. Except I will not completely destroy the house of Jacob, saith Yahweh. For behold, I will command, and I will sift the house of Yeshariel among all nations, like grain is sifted in a sieve. However, the smallest grain will not fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people who say, The evil will not come near or approach us, will die by the sword. During that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David, which has fallen, and I will mend its breaches, and I will raise up its ruins, and I will build it like in the days of old, so that they will possess the remnant of Adum, and all the nations that are called by my name saith Yahweh, who will do it. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when the plowman will come near the reaper, and the grape treader to him who sows seed. Then the mountains will drop sweet wine, and all the hills will melt. I will bring the captives of my people, Yisrael, again, and they will rebuild the wasted cities and inhabit them. Also, they will plant vineyards and drink its wine. Also, they will make gardens and eat its fruit. Then I will plant them upon their Adamah, and they will not be pulled out of their Adamah again, which I have given them, saith Yahweh your Elohim. The end. Thank you for listening to my interpretation of Amos. I hope that you find my Bible series, Khureb BeRuakh, Sword of the Spirit, enlightening. The word of Yahweh is a treasure trove of mysteries. It's amazing what you'll discover when you read it with your eyes open. My name is Wendy, and you've been called out of darkness